Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And so I need to come back and talk about this whole segregation issue again because it's getting out of hand. So let's just go over some things that we have talked about on this channel. There are three branches of government. Each branch is independent of the other. Each branch has its own powers. There is the legislative branch, the Congress, they make the laws. There is the judicial branch, the Supreme Court, they interpret the laws. And there is the executive branch, that is the President of the United States, and he enforces the laws. Now, when Congress passes a law, the president cannot repeal or overturn that law. It is settled law if Congress passes that law. That is their job, to make laws and pass laws or pass bills or whatever you want to call it. That is the job of the United States Congress, not the president. Now, a president has the power of executive order. For the time that he's in office, he can make a law, but he cannot overturn a law unless it's an executive order that came from a president before him. Let's just say that one of the President Bushes passed an executive order, and the presidents that came after him let that order go, let it continue to be law. Let's say Donald Trump came into office and decides that he doesn't like that law. He can repeal that law. He can repeal a law all the way back to the 1800s if it's an executive order. But if it's settled law, passed into law by Congress, he cannot repeal it. Okay? He cannot. He can bluff and say, and he can try, because Donald Trump doesn't know the law. Donald Trump did not go to law school. Donald Trump never served in the Congress. He never served in the House of Representatives or the House of Senate. He's never even been a state legislator. So he doesn't even know about these branches of government. Probably, I'm going to say probably. So he truly thinks he can come in and do anything he wants to do. But he cannot. This woman's name is Gwen Wilcox. Joe Biden appointed her member of the National Labor Relations Board. Donald Trump came in and right off the bat fired her. She went to the district court of the District of Columbia and the judge reinstated her. She is the judge that told Donald Trump, "You are not a king. The president of the United States is not a king." And this woman is back on her job. She didn't even have to go to the Supreme Court because district court judges have the power to interpret laws. Just like that judge out in Texas told Donald Trump that he couldn't send those illegals back to Venezuela. I don't think they had been given due process. And that plane was in the air. That plane was supposed to turn back around, but it didn't because Trump claimed he didn't know the plane was in the air. He can't just do what he wants to do just because he's the president. And just today, a judge has blocked his transgender military ban. U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes said the policy is soaked in animus and discriminates against transgender people. So now there's a ban on that. So he can't block transgender people from serving in the military. The judge says that it violates the Equal Protection Clause, which American citizens are guaranteed under the Constitution. Well, he's trying to do stuff, but it's illegal. So the district courts are striking down all of this illegal stuff that he's trying to do. He's posturing and grandstanding for his base, but he does not get to do just anything because that's what he wants to do. He's a bully. He's bluffing, and he's surrounded by people who also don't know how government works. Well, most of them don't. So he really thinks that he can do whatever he wants to do. Now, in order for him to do whatever he wants to do, that means he's going to upend the whole United States government, and everybody's going to be affected by it. Now, let's get back to segregation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 ended segregation in the United States, period. And it was unlawful to segregate anyway because under the 14th Amendment, we are citizens of the United States with the full rights and privileges of a citizen of the United States, including due process and equal protection under the law. But because they ignored the 14th Amendment, Congress came back in 1964 and clarified it under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That is not an executive order. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is not an executive order. It is a law passed by Congress and signed into law. Executive orders, such as Executive Order 11246, can affect the implementation of civil rights laws, but cannot repeal them. The Civil Rights Act established anti discrimination protections that are enforceable by the federal government. Donald Trump's job as the chief executive officer of this country is to enforce this law, not try to repeal it. So again, he doesn't know his job and he doesn't know what he's doing. Now let's look at what Donald Trump can do. Executive Order 11246, signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, was an executive order of the Article 2 branch of the United States federal government in place from 1965 to 2025, specifying non discriminatory practices and affirmative action in federal government hiring and employment. The executive action was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson on September 24, 1965, establishing requirements for non discriminatory practices in hiring and employment. So, see, this is where affirmative action came in. It was an executive order. The Supreme Court can overturn an executive order, and so can a president. But under this, when I told y'all in the last video about the hiring in those government contracts, see, this is what this is: non discriminatory practices and affirmative action in government hiring and employment. See, this doesn't say anything about segregating, going back to the back of the bus. Nobody even rides the bus anyway. Just about everybody has a car, and nobody drinks from a water fountain. Those things are just non-starters in the conversation because we're not where we were in 1965. But again, I'm going to re-emphasize the fact that I believe all that Donald Trump is doing has to do with those government contracts. Under President Johnson's executive order, he said that they had to have some set asides for non white contractors. And they went back and argued that having those set asides was discriminatory against white contractors. So they had 90% of the contracts, and the president said you have to set aside 10% for minority or non white contractors. And the white people said that was discriminating against them. They want all of them. And that's how they win because they don't let things go. They get the right people lobbying for them and they can get things passed. But that's what this was about, this executive order where President Johnson said they had to have set asides to grant minority contractors some of those jobs. Trump can overturn an executive order or he can challenge an executive order, but you can still take him to court with it just because it was a law and it was passed for a reason. But he can do that. But he cannot bring back segregation, as in separating people in public facilities. That is not what this is about. Even in the executive order that he sent out, it said discrimination is illegal in the United States, and it is. So anything that he does can be challenged. So we don't want to be ignorant of what's going on here. He is a bully. He would like to turn back the hands of time, apparently, but he can't. And if he does, if he's going to go back and undo everything that's been done for the past 200 and something years, then he's upending the United States government. And everybody in the United States of America will be affected by that, mostly white people. And that's why you see them cutting up and clowning in these town halls and out in the streets protesting, because they see they are going to be more affected by these crazy things that they're trying to do there in Washington now than anybody. So just be aware that a lot of these are just scare tactics, and people are making these videos, and Trump is bringing back the segregation and all of this. Just know that it's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be easy, and it's definitely not lawful. But a bully will bully you, and if a bully can get through by bullying, he will bully. But you really do need to be aware of the law, and you need to be armed with information so that every time somebody sounds the alarm about some off the wall thing that Donald Trump has done, you don't get alarmed, because it's either legal or it's not. And if it's not legal, which it probably won't be, he won't be able to get away with it. And let me just stick this in. Before Joe Biden left office, he appointed a lot of federal judges. Now, black people were saying, oh, that don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. It does mean something. That's what the three branches are about, to check each other's power. A federal judge can check a president. They can make a difference. They're making a difference now. So it did make a difference. It was important for him to appoint those judges. So to wrap this video up, don't let everybody trigger you. I know many of you don't. You know what time it is. But don't let these people trigger you, because a lot of this is just hyperbole and trying to keep people emotionally upset for a reaction. Don't do it. There are laws in place to govern this country, and even Donald Trump has to follow these laws. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.